About a month ago, Sony took over headlines after they announced the first details of their next generation console, the PlayStation 5. In the announcement, we got details regarding the hardware specs of the PS5, which if you haven't seen my breakdown video, I strongly recommend it. I go in detail with the specs, but to briefly sum it up, the PlayStation 5 will have an AMD Ryzen CPU and a variant of the Radeon Navi GPU. In their announcement, they also mentioned that their next generation console will support real-time ray tracing, 8K resolution, and SSD that will drastically reduce loading times, to which I speculated that the PS5 will have an NVMe M.2 SSD. Now, they also went on to mention that the PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with the PS4, and the system will provide 3D audio without any additional hardware. But like I said, guys, if you don't know more details on the PS5, I strongly recommend you check out my full hardware and feature breakdown via the link in the description. Now let's get to the topic of today's discussion, specifically when is the PlayStation 5 going to release and how much is it going to cost consumers? According to game industry analyst Hideki Yasuda of Ace Research Institute in Japan, the new PlayStation 5 was developed to correct most of the flaws of the PlayStation 4, and he claims that the new PS5 will be $100 more than the PS4 at a price point of $500 USD, or 450 euros. Now, $500 USD seems like the obvious price point due to the hardware specs of the system, but even then, they're probably still going to be selling it at a bit of a loss, but I think that's a good thing as they're going to make most of their revenue back in subscriptions as well as their game titles that they launch. It'll be more lucrative if they sell the console at a loss so that they can make all of their profits back in game sales. At the end of the day, the only reason that people are buying consoles is so that they can play new games. They make the majority of their profits on the games and not on the console sales. I think they corrected their mistake with the PS3 and selling the PlayStation 4 at a reasonable price point instead of the $600 price point that they sold the PS3. History does have a weird way of repeating itself, so I hope they learn their lesson with the PS5. The question is still unknown of whether or not the PS5 will have a cheaper option, but at this point, it's pretty unlikely due to the fact that it will have backwards compatibility with the PlayStation 4. At the end of the day, $500 is quite expensive, and I just don't think the average consumer is willing to spend that much on a new console. Let me know down below, guys. Would you spend $500 on a new console? Let me know down below. I really want to know your answers because personally, I don't think casual gamers are going to spend that much on a new console, especially if it's backwards compatible with the PS4. Obviously, there is a huge enthusiast gamer marketplace like myself and have no problem spending a premium price for the best experience. For instance, I bought the $600 mistake that was the thick boy PS3 and the powerhouse that is the Xbox One X. I just hope they don't make the same mistakes with the PS3 and release it at a ridiculous price of $600 with only 21 games at launch, 4 of them being exclusives from Sony, and only one of those games being actually good, that being Resistance: Fall of Man. For the most part, the PS3 had a pretty mediocre launch compared to the PS4, so I really hope they take what they learned with the PS4 and reapply it to the PlayStation 5. Sony is going to have to really come out swinging with launch titles and bundles that are lucrative if they want people to buy a $500 console. And I think that's the main reason PlayStation opted out of E3 2019 this year, because they want to save most of their first party game reveals for E3 2020 to build up hype for the PlayStation 5 launch. Now, I don't think Sony's going to stay quiet around E3. I think it's a safe bet that they will have a state of play direct briefing around E3 with the goal of promoting games that are slated for a 2019 launch. I think another reason that they're not going to E3 is because they don't really have to and they don't have much to say. PlayStation does an incredible job marketing their games, and I don't think they're really gaining much by going to E3. With everybody being so connected and online and knowing when things are releasing, there's not really a need for them to go to E3 every single year. If this was 2009, it'd be a different story, but it's not. If the era of social media has done one thing right, it is making it really easy to market games. Now, to continue the point where I don't think PlayStation has much to say, it's because they're going to be saving most of their first-party game reveals, for instance, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and Last of Us, for the release of E3 2020 to build up hype for the PlayStation 5 launch. I think it's a very good possibility that we could be seeing all 3 of those games as launch titles for the PS5, if not maybe a month later, to kind of scatter them out to make things fresh for the PlayStation 5. One thing that's for sure is if we get all 3 of those games at launch, Xbox better have some crazy games releasing for launch titles, or else they're going to be in hot water for the 5th generation. Now that we've discussed the price of the PS5, let's talk about the big question, and that's when is this console going to launch? And so far, everything points to a holiday season 2020 release date. According to the same analyst, he claims that the PlayStation 5 will release in November 2020, and he also goes on to predict the system will sell about 6 million units by March 2021 and 15 million units by March 2022. Now, Hideki Yasuda has built quite a good reputation from his years in the game industry, but at this point, everything is all hearsay and it should be treated as speculation. But the way that things are looking, with Sony already giving details about the specs and the features of the PS5, which is creating a lot of buzz around the console, and the fact that they aren't going to have an E3 2019 press conference, I think it's safe to say that holiday 2020 will be the start of the 5th generation consoles. Hey, if you enjoyed this game and news video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel with your notifications on for future videos regarding the PlayStation 5. I will be covering it extensively, as well as E3 2019. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to comment below, are you willing to spend $500 on a console, and are you going to be buying the PlayStation 5 when it launches? Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, this has been Wes, and I will see you on the next one.
Oh, thank you.